All right, let's get ready for quiz 7.5. Factor, factor, factor. We're solving equations. I'm going to do numbers 8, 10, and 11. Factor the denominator to find the LCD. If you find the LCD, then you can multiply everything by the LCD and not have any more fractions. It looks like these are the same trinomial, so plus 2 plus 6? Yes. So my LCD is n plus 2, n plus 6. Now this denominator, that goes into the LCD, so we're good. Do not forget this negative, okay? Negatives, especially when you're solving rational equations, because it's like it looks like it's just an extension of the fraction bar, it can get confusing. So watch out for those signs. All right, so we're gonna multiply everything by the LCD. Okay, I'm going to write everything out again. You don't have to, but that's what I'm gonna do. N plus 2, n plus 6 over n plus 2, n plus 6. All right, because we're just multiplying by 1. Minus n plus 2, n plus 6 over n plus 6 equals 6 times n plus 2 times n plus 6. You get where this is going? You get the the pattern here? Okay, now I can reduce, and what I should have left are no fractions. This is just a beautiful big 1. That is also 1. So I have minus, I'm going to distribute this minus right now, if you don't mind. Negative 1n, negative 2 equals, that's a special form of the number 1, 6. Wow, this is a much easier equation to solve. Negative n minus 1 equals 6. Negative n equals 7. N equals negative 7. Okay. Don't box it in. I boxed it in because I saw the answer key and I was like, okay, we're good. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure that negative 7 is not going to make any of those denominators equal to 0. But it doesn't, so you're good. Number 10, factor and find that LCD. N squared times n minus 5. This denominator is n squared, just so that we don't forget about it, even though it wasn't factorable. This one has an n that goes into it, n minus 5. So my LCD is whatever's the biggest. This one is the biggest, n squared times n minus 5. And then check to make sure there's not anything you need to add in, like multiply by the LCD that's not accounted for. Okay, so the LCD divided by this is 1, so you're good to go. Just as long as each of your denominators divides from the LCD evenly. You should have no fractions. These should divide evenly. Does n squared go into n squared times n minus 5? Yes, it does. It goes into the n squared. And then does n times n minus 5 go into n squared times n minus 5? Yes, it does. You'll have just an n to the 1 left over. So that's my LCD. You're going to multiply everything by that. 1 times the LCD. So I guess I'll use this. Okay. N squared times n minus 5 over n squared times n minus 5. Now, I'm writing the factored version of the denominator, so it's so super obvious to me what we'll end up crossing off, reducing. Okay, plus n squared times n minus 5 over n squared equals, you got to group, so you got to group it. You got to put in parentheses. 4n minus 16, which is actually factorable, but it doesn't help us with anything. Times n squared times n minus 5 over n times n minus 5. Now let's reduce from there. This is beautiful. 1 plus, that's 1, so positive n minus 5. N minus 5 over n minus 5 is 1. N squared over n is n. I'm going to put that n in front, and then I'm going to distribute it. 4n squared, distribute, negative 16n. Got a quadratic on our hands. Because the squared term is positive, I am going to move everything to that side, so I don't have a negative squared term. So I should have 0 equals 4n squared. Subtract your n, so minus 17n. And then we're going to add, and this will be negative 4, so add 4, positive 4. And then I see 4 times 4 is 16. 16 and 1 will give me 17. So should be good to go. Let's factor. I want it to be 4n times n. And then I want this 4 to be multiplied by this 4. So I'm going to put it in the other parentheses. And this will be 1. So 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 1 is 4. And then the outsides, 4 times 4 is 16. 1 times 1n. 4n times 4 is 16n. 1 times n is 1n. Everything needs to be negative to give you a negative 17n. And your two answers are positive 1 over 4 using zero product property and 4. But they may not both be answers. So go ahead and check that none of those make your denominator equal to 0. And it appears as though none of them do. Factor to find your GCF. N times n minus 1. Okay. So one of the denominators is n. One is n minus 1. And one is n times n minus 1. So I think we can kind of see the pattern here. It's going to be n times n minus 1. And that accounts for the n minus 1 over here. And that accounts for the n over here. So we're good to go. We're going to multiply everything in the equation by the LCD. Try to get rid of those fractions. So I have 1 times the LCD, n times n minus 1 over n times n minus 1 plus. This grouping, okay, I see two terms in one fraction, so I need to group those. N plus 6 needs to be multiplied by this, so we have n plus 6 times n minus 1 over n minus 1, and this is equal to n plus 1 grouped times n minus 1 over n. Reduce anything to 1 if possible. This is a big 1 plus n minus 1 over n minus 1. I'm going to distribute the n, so I have n squared plus 6n equals n plus 1 times n minus 1. That's difference of perfect squares, so it should be n squared minus 1. And, all right, let's reduce. This is not too difficult. We have subtract your n squared, and then you have 0 n squareds. Okay, subtract the 1, so you have 6n equals negative 2, n equals negative 1/3. Does that make any of my denominators equal to 0? Nope. Good to go.